The Weather Lounge podcast is brought to you by CrewTracker software.
This is the Weather Lounge here at WeatherWorks.
Hi there, everyone, and welcome back to the Weather Lounge. I'm your host, meteorologist Brad Miller, and our latest podcast comes to you from our WeatherWorks headquarters, located in Hackettstown, New Jersey, and made possible by CrewTracker software. And joining me here in the Weather Lounge today is not Mike Mahalik, but guest host, meteorologist Chelsea Ingram. Welcome, Chelsea.
Brad, thank you so much. I am so happy to be here. It's such a pleasure to finally join the Weather Lounge, and this is my first podcast with you guys.
Yeah, it's great having you on here today, and I'm sure it won't be the first time you're on. I can guarantee you that. And Chelsea, I had the pleasure of going to SIMA with you back in June when we went to Milwaukee. That was a great time with Kevin Hopler and Frank Lombardo, of course, our CEO here at WeatherWorks. But tell us a little about yourself, a little background, so some of the folks know who you are here at WeatherWorks.
Yeah, sure, Brad. Thanks so much. So, I'm a senior meteorologist for WeatherWorks. I handle what we call partnership solutions, and my background is in broadcasting. So, I worked in the television news industry really for about the past 11 years, working in Burlington, Vermont, Baltimore, Maryland, as well as Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. I've done coverage on the CBS Evening News as well as CBS This Morning, but I can easily say that my favorite job of my career so far has been working for WeatherWorks because the people are extremely intelligent and bright, and it's such a fun crew. So I'm really happy to be a part of the team.
Yeah, I mean, it's great having you. I'll tell you, you've made such a difference since you've joined with us too on the social media parts of WeatherWorks, and as a byproduct of television myself, I can tell you the same thing. It's so much different. I mean, anyone that's been on TV can say, "Oh, I love being on TV," and I do. I love being on television doing the weather. But there's a lot of stuff behind the scenes that I'm sure you know of that just isn't the best of the business of meteorology, I guess, with TV.
Well, I think more so we just have the opportunity to really showcase the analytics, and we have the time to do that at WeatherWorks. We have the time during our shift to really dig into the data and put out the best forecast that we possibly can for all of our clients. So it's a pretty cool company to work for.
Yeah, it is. It is. So again, welcome here to the podcast, Chelsea. And you know what? We have a special guest also today in the Weather Lounge. His name is John Paganini, and he is the CEO of CrewTracker software. And yes, also the sponsor
Woo!
of our podcast.
Yeah, we have had a long-standing relationship with John. Brad and I both met John in person at SIMA in Milwaukee this past summer. He has such an energetic personality. He's so passionate about the snow and ice industry, and he's just been such a wonderful partner that WeatherWorks has been able to work with over the past several years. And it started with a simple partnership of importing certified snowfall data into just a simple spreadsheet. And now it's transitioned into working with our API data and seamlessly integrating that into the CrewTracker software. With one click, CSTs are pulled into that service for our mutual customers and clients. So, really excited to have him on. We're going to take a quick break, and we're going to be back with all the ideas on how technology can benefit your business in the snow and ice industry to increase safety and efficiency.
Since 2004, CrewTracker software has enabled snow and ice management companies to save time, money, and resources with their comprehensive digital services platform. All the information needed to plan your operations and make business decisions is current and always available. Along with QuickBooks, CrewTracker software provides seamless integration with WeatherWorks certified snowfall totals. Visit CrewTracker.com to rock your game and learn how CrewTracker software makes managing snow and ice simple. Take advantage of the SIMA Show Special $500 discount and White Glove Startup Service offer.
All right, and welcome back here to the Weather Lounge. Again, I'm meteorologist Brad Miller, and we have our guest host today, Chelsea Ingram, also from here at WeatherWorks. And our guest today is John Paganini, and he is the CEO of CrewTracker software. And John, welcome to the Weather Lounge. It's great to have you on here today.
Thank you, Brad, and thank you, Chelsea. What an honor to be here with our partner, WeatherWorks, that we've been working together with for so long. This is really an exciting podcast, and I'm excited to share some of the cool technologies that are going on in the industry and how that benefits the snow and ice management operations. So thank you. Thank you for having me. CrewTracker software has been around since 2004, providing innovative business solutions to small and large snow and ice management companies, both in the US and Canada. So, our platform allows operations to manage the routing, the services, the billing, the crews, the properties, and so much more. We've got some great integration with QuickBooks as well, not just WeatherWorks in a sense, and that makes billing very efficient. We've got a nice mobile app for the crews to manage and document their services, a portal for our customers, if you will, to look at their own services and see what's going on. So we're really focused on customer needs and attaining those business goals with a focus on excellence in customer support, as well as technology innovation, because we are a software company, of course. So as was mentioned earlier, we are really honored to have this longstanding partnership with WeatherWorks. And now that our systems are seamlessly integrated, and Chelsea, you mentioned the analytics. And analytics, I'm going to talk a little bit about that, about the power, if you will, of analytics and incorporating weather data into your services and how that impacts the industry as well as your business. So thank you for having me.
Yeah. And, you were talking about a couple examples, John, on how technology can benefit your business, but there are so many things. Like, we can even start with GPS technology and how that can improve your business in the snow and ice industry. I'm always amazed at some of the new technology coming onto the scene each and every year that is really benefiting contractors and property managers alike.
Yeah, GPS is pretty important to the snow and ice industry. It just provides so many different features in a sense. But let me ground us, if just the audience. The audience probably knows a lot about this, but let me give some background and what the heck is GPS. Of course, it stands for a Global Positioning System, and that is 24 satellites circling the planet every 12 hours, providing us a worldwide position, the time, the velocity, all this information. But what does that do for us? Well, it makes it possible to identify locations anywhere on the planet by just measuring the distance from those satellites. It does this through what's called triangulation. So each GPS signal is looking at 3 different satellites at the same time to really get some interesting accuracy. So GPS is used in a lot of ways. One is location, just determining a basic position on the planet. And I know this is all very important to WeatherWorks and how you are doing some of your data and analytics. So it's an interesting comparison there. But obviously, it's used for navigation. We use Waze or Google Maps, Apple Maps. We get from one location to another. And there's tracking also. You may have heard of the Apple tags or Tile or just tracking in general, and those are using GPS. And it includes timing. So you may have a Garmin watch or some other device that's actually tracking the time it takes to ride your bike from one place to another. So it knows the distance, it knows the time. And so that is really impacting many different industries, GPS.
And John, GPS basically is a new, I guess, functionality, right? Where were we 20 years ago without GPS? It just seems like how far it's come. Nobody had phones, 30 years ago, but now everyone knows where everyone is. And of course, this is all thanks to GPS. And where's my car at? All the new cars today, you can track your car. It's amazing where we've come just in like 20 to 30 years.
Yeah.
I was thinking the other day about how you used to have to pay a lot of money just to get navigation in your car. When you go to buy a new car, it's like, man, but I really want the navigation because that's so cool. And now you can just use your phone and use Waze or Google Maps. And there's such a close link between GPS and GIS technology, which allows for collaboration across a workspace using all of the satellite data. And John, even with weather forecasting, we use GIS data, GIS information when it comes to collaborating and creating our forecasts at WeatherWorks. So let's talk a little bit more specifically how GPS functionality can be implemented as a solution within business operations in the snow and ice industry.
Yeah, great analysis comparing GIS to GPS. And that is an important aspect. So, one of the things that you may have here is fleet tracking. is a tool that's used extensively throughout many industries. But for the snow and ice industry, it monitors gas mileage and acceleration, making sharp turns and stopping, and it monitors driving in real time. And that is really leveraging GPS. The other aspect of that would be with the mobile phone. So you can manage your crew location at any given time. So, from an operational management perspective, you have the ability to view the entire operations process and identify the customer location, your crew location, your equipment location. And using certain systems, you can have identify whether the service has been started, when it's been completed, and if your system has the ability to capture a photo. On the photo itself, in the metadata of the photo, you can capture the GPS location along with the time that the picture was taken. And so, things like that really come into play for validating that you perform the service, or God forbid there was a slip and fall, you need to validate and verify that your crew was on site at the same time. All of this data supports your case in a sense.
Yeah, and property manager too, right? So works both ways. Works for the contractors, also the property managers having that data at their location too. It's very, very beneficial.
Another aspect of GPS that is interesting is, you call it's called kind of breadcrumbs, but it allows you to track the viewing of the crews while they're actually in transit. So when they're at the location, but some customers may call and say, "Hey, when is your crew going to be at my site?" You can look and see that they're traveling from location A to location B using GPS. Yeah, and you've seen this probably if you used Uber. You watch the car on the little map on your phone. You see it's 5 minutes away. You can see it traveling down the street. You know when it's going to be there. Same technology. So another value of GPS for the snow and ice business, obviously, is the ability to do routing based on the physical location of your properties, right? Using GPS, you can just sort all your services by GPS and say, okay, I got to go to this one first, this one next, because this is the most geographically efficient way to approach it. However, you can be a little bit smarter and think about, oh my goodness, I have to be at the bank at 6 o'clock and have that plowed by 6. I have to have the church plowed by 7. I have to have the school plowed by 8 o'clock. So that if you think about the combination of that criteria, your contractual agreement, if you will, along with the GPS location, you can really do some efficient optimization of your routing using GPS and other criteria.
That's great. So it really looks like it also helps improve driver safety with the fleet management software, as you talked about as well.
One simple approach, and it's pretty obvious, is if the truck breaks down, or your crew member is stuck, based on GPS the physical location, you can send another truck to back up that other truck, or you can send another crew person. And of course, if you have a driver stranded in a blizzard, that's a safety factor. You know exactly where they are based on the GPS location. So that's really one of the GPS safety facters.
Yeah, and as meteorologists, of course, right, Brad, we'll talk a little bit about how weather can impact GPS.
I was just going to say we're moving along here on the how weather can impact GPS, and it brings me it reminds me of the old days back in college, and I'm kind of dating myself here, but back when we would get our data, of course, through the satellite, which that's the way it is, and it still is today. But I guess there's ways around it these days. But I remember going out when I was like in college and worked in the campus weather center there in Millersville. We'd have to go out and shovel the satellite off and chip the ice away because either no data was coming in or just very little data was coming in, and we'd actually have to go out there, and then within like 15 minutes it would be a whole slew of data coming back in until it would re-ice over and we have to go back out there. So we're going back to the 90s here, but I don't know if there's any kind of way to get around that these days, John, but it seems like it's still the same thing.
There's a lot of technologies, actually, just from some research I did in grad school at Hopkins. Um, there's something called synthetic aperture radar, and there's ways to kind of read data through the weather. And maybe that's not necessarily on the scene just yet, but it's definitely in the works and coming onto the scene, being able to see what's going on the ground, through the clouds, through the weather. So I think it's just a matter of time.
Wow, interesting technology. Yeah, had not heard of that. As you were saying, the GPS can be a little bit affected by rain or snow or ice, because if one of the satellites is not getting through, then it's only triangulating on two out of the three, and so that would be a factor. But I think in general, based on the current state of the technology and then the satellites, it's not really a major
Right.
effect.
Again, this is going years back. I mean, I'm sure there's, all this stuff has changed now, with all this, the ice on antennas and things like that. I'm sure there's heaters and stuff now too on a lot of that stuff, isn't there?
I imagine. I imagine. So speaking of the past and the present, in that light, the satellites are getting better. The future of GPS continues to get more accurate. They're adding security and reliability and improving the positions and the navigation services along that. In fact, they're also trying to standardize, I guess, the signals that are out there, so that even spacecraft can leverage the advantage of GPS. So it's going to get down to the image, to the inches, eventually, with and things like 5G are really going to help that out.
So, John, you just mentioned 5G. Brad and I were chatting. What exactly is 5G? It is an emerging technology.
Everyone's like, "Hey, I got 5G. Hey, I got 5G," but a lot of us don't know what
Sounds
5G
better
is.
than 4G, right?
Yeah, and it's actually a little bit of a different technology, but yeah, what the heck is 5G? Well, before 5G, there was car phones, right? We had car phones, and then there was 3G. That was good. All of a sudden, texting came into the picture there. Probably while you were cleaning off the satellites from with the ice there, and you could actually surf the web with 3G, kind of, if it was a very simple website, right? And then 4G was kind of a big step forward, because all of a sudden we were getting 100 megabit uh, reception, if you will, and you could go to a website on your phone using 4G. So then the world got very excited and they announced that 5G was coming. So essentially, 5G is very fast, very fast. And if it's running at the full speed, and there are different variations on 5G, it can be up to 1 gigabyte per second on your phone. In fact, certain providers are saying, why don't you just get 5G and run your home internet on 5G, or your business? You don't need to have the cable or whatever it is as a service. It's that good. But it's not yet prevalent. And, I would compare that, if you will, to how electric cars are coming, and we're still, we need the infrastructure in place to have the charging stations. Very similar with 5G, because these guys, in order for 5G to really be prevalent and working well, we need to have charging stations, more cell stations built that are on top of telephone poles, tops of buildings. When all this is in place, we're going to have faster data transmission, reduced response times. And how does that affect snow and ice management? Well, there is a vision that all of our traffic lights will be more efficient. We'll have cloud-based navigation, knowing where all our vehicles are at. We're going to have better routing. Everything will be on a grid, if you will. And 5G is going to enable that, because there's so much data. If you think about smart cars, even the data that's going on for a smart car to know what's going on around it's an amazing aspect of that. And 5G enables all of that information to travel up to the cloud and then back, so that you can drive safely, unattended, if you will. So that's still, as we all know, way out there, and there's a lot of work to be done on that. But I think, the vehicles will be talking to each other and reporting road conditions to each other in real time. And we see a little bit of that in Waze, right? When Waze says traffic is slowing down, or there's a pothole as a car.
It's that collaboration,
It is.
real-time collaboration.
It is. It's very social in that sense. And so some of that, instead of you saying there's a car stuck on the side of the road in Waze, it'll just know that, and it'll be available because the car will tell the network, if you will, where it's at in the process. So, maybe cars will self-diagnose themselves, and it's really hard to say, well, how we're going to leverage that, and there's a lot of innovation yet to come for sure. But the thinking is that by 2030, 5G will be pretty mainstream by then. And I think that as you think about what's going on with the crews using a mobile app, even operations and administration, having all of that information, and I know from a WeatherWorks perspective, showing real time weather radar images and motion, 5G will really help out in that sense.
Yeah, even with 5G, what's great with our forecast management system, which is a forecasting platform we have, even with our mobile app that we have with WeatherWorks, it just helps crews, it helps property managers, no matter where you are, to be able to get that information, get your weather forecasting, get your whether you're chatting with or even texting or calling a meteorologist back at WeatherWorks with a question, it just helps to efficiently make that flow and allow you to get in contact when you need to. It just helps make the data, make the talking, the conversation, it makes it flow, it makes it work efficiently. So it's really nice to have such strong technology this day and age, especially within the snow and ice industry and within the weather industry.
Yeah, a good point, Chelsea. The bandwidth doesn't become a factor, right?
Exactly.
Truly real time.
So there are ways, John, that crews, that property managers can save time on their mobile phone and ways to safely utilize the mobile phone when working.
One of the things that we see is that sometimes users say, "Well, I have gloves on, and I don't like to type on the mobile phone," and so that really could get in the way of.
What's the workaround?
Yeah. So what are some of the options there? Because really, you're typing on a virtual keys on a glass screen, so not really ideal, right? Compared to a keyboard, and the keyboard's not as fast as we can talk. You can actually talk 3 times faster than you can type. At least,
I didn't know that, but it makes sense.
yeah. Some people can type faster than others, obviously, right? So there are keyboards you can use on your phone, but they're more popular on tablets or iPads. And there's something called gesture typing, which I've tried, and it's not really. It takes a little bit of practice, if you will, and you just kind of drag your finger across the keyboard from letter to letter instead of stopping and typing. You just drag it around in kind of a gliding gesture, if you will, and that is not really been used a lot, but that is another way to type.
Wonder why.
Yeah, I think it's just good practice. I tried it. I said, "Oh my gosh, this is cool," but it took a while. And so you go back and revert to the way you know best. Of course, there's a stylus or a pen that you can use. But my personal favorite really is voice recognition. And the Apple and the Android phones, they both support that. And even when you're doing voice recognition, you may not be aware of, but you can actually use punctuation. So you can say like, "Dear Chelsea, comma, the check is in the mail!" Exclamation point. And Apple and Android will both recognize that as punctuation, and it'll convert that voice to proper text, if you will, sentence wise. And of course, while you're driving, voice recognition is key from a safety perspective.
Yeah, driving's. I'm gonna say driving's the biggest. I mean, I use that all the time when you're want to get a message to somebody and you're just like, hey, comma, I'll be there in 10 minutes, or I'm on the way, and it's so easy.
And I think for me, this day and age, I rarely actually hold my cell phone up to my ear anymore. I'm either on speakerphone or I'm talking to text. I just have it held up to my mouth. And that's got to make it easier, especially during winter weather. I mean, I I haven't ever plowed a driveway, or a street. So I'm going to say that. But I have shoveled and I have had to communicate. So it is easier to just pick up the phone and talk to text or say, hey, Siri, text this person, ask them this question. It does make it easier than having to take off the gloves, warm up your hands so you can even move them around. It makes it a little easier.
And there's Apple CarPlay and Android,
Right.
the Android Auto, it's called. So your smartphone can even be. In fact, we're looking at that and how we can leverage those technologies on those platforms in the car, or in the truck.
John, automation in general, I think, is becoming so big in the snow and ice industry. Every time I'm on LinkedIn, I feel like I'm seeing a new post about automation and how it is completely changing the game. So let's talk a little bit about that. And you can discuss even how it's changed things with CrewTracker and then in general, how it's changing things across the industry.
Yeah, yeah. A lot that's a wide open question.
I
Absolutely.
know.
But let me revert back to one classic, if you will, way of automation, and that is before the mobile apps, there was something called interactive voice response. And that was the term was IVR. And what this allows, it's really a smart version of press one for customer service, press two for tech support, that thing. So the crews could in the past, and they still can, call a number and say, I'm on service number whatever. And the system will say, oh, service three, you're plowing Walmart. And are you starting the service? And they would simply say yes and hang up, and that would trigger that transaction, if you will, and capture that data. And then when the crew person was done, they would call the same number, put in the same number as that service, and the system would say, I see you're at you started the service at Walmart. Are you now complete? Say yes. And that data would then get saved and sent to the mothership. In this case, it might be CrewTracker or something. So that was another way. And that was a way when smartphones really didn't exist, or in some very rural locations, cellular data is very light and not good, the reception. And there are some crew people who just don't have a smartphone. So this is an alternative to that, in a sense. It's a good backup strategy. It just enables business continuity and keeps the data electronic, in a sense.
So, what kind of ways, tell me, CrewTracker, what have you automated just to make things easier, run smoothly, run more efficiently from the data perspective?
Yeah, we did a lot of that IVR data. I mean, that was the history of CrewTracker back in the early 2000 when it started. It uses that data, and then it moved to the mobile app. The things that we're looking at now, from a technology standpoint, is integrating sensors. And there's a lot of sensors on the market, and I know that WeatherWorks is using a lot of them from the weather perspective. The ground temperature, the pavement temperature, the air temperature, detecting changes, even detecting rain and snow, humidity, dew point. We're looking at sensors from a salt distribution perspective. So how much salt is physically being distributed from the truck so that we can manage the materials better and send that back, if you will, to the mothership. So sensors have been around, but they're kind of new in some ways, and they're still inventing more. And this is an aspect of what is called the Internet of Things. You may have heard that term, or IoT, which is a pretty exciting area. And really, it's a device that is smart in a sense. It's got little software built into it. It connects with other devices, or to a network, or to the internet itself. And we all are seeing these sensors in our homes. That we have the Nest thermostat, maybe motion detectors, water levels. Myself, I just installed this thing called a Ting, which my insurance company sponsored. But that detects electric voltage variances in your house, which is pretty interesting. So you just plug it into a plug, and it just watches the electric voltage, which is nice to know, especially if you have a lot of technology in your house, like I do. So ideally, all of this sensor information is centralized somewhere and viewable on a dashboard. And I know WeatherWorks itself has dashboards like that, presenting information to your users that is all coming from sensors all over the place.
Yeah,
Actually.
like you say, we use that in, everyday forecasting, especially in the wintertime, like you said about the pavement temperatures. That's crucial to us, especially in marginal situations when, maybe it's not all that cold, but yet you get a snow squall that comes through and it drops that pavement temperature to a, 30, 31 degree reading. And then somebody's got to do some work. So it's things that like that we really, use in everyday, forecasting.
Sure, that's the trick is how do we enable the snow and ice management business to be proactive in how they manage their events, right?
Yeah, and I think when it comes to automation, a big thing is using those APIs and taking advantage of the APIs, right? Even with our partnership with you, John, just the mere fact that CrewTracker software can ping our API and just get certified snowfall totals at the click of a button for clients, that just makes the entire process so much faster.
Yeah, great point, Chelsea. In that integration specifically, what it does is it brings those certified snowfall totals right into the system, and that information can then travel over to the invoice, and so that their customers see on the invoice they're certified by WeatherWorks, and so there's a credibility factor there. There's a customer communications are really good. So yeah, it is, and that is the exciting part of this industry. If you think about, that the platform of having all this data and analytics, there's really no limit. In fact, that's what makes this all very exciting, where we are now and where we're going. And this integration is just the tip of the iceberg on what we can do for the snow and ice management industry with analytics and data. And if I could, I'd like to talk a little bit about data analytics and what the horizons look like for that. If we talk about data analytics, what is data analytics? Well, it's, as you well know, in WeatherWorks, you're collecting the data, you're evaluating the data, you're presenting the data to your users to help inform decisions. So we're in the same business. We're doing that, and the collaboration enhances the information being provided so that the decisions become even better and smarter in a sense. When you're talking about data analytics, we also want to talk about artificial intelligence and bringing some AI, if you will. And there's been a lot of talk about AI and are people watching and the dangers of AI. But I'm going to talk about the good part about that, not because it is good. It is good. It can really help us analyze things like weather patterns and evaluating your crew routing. We've talked a little bit about that earlier. But imagine this. Let's think about you've been running your business with a computer system for years now, and you've got a lot of historical data. It's been captured, it's been stored, it's all in electronic format in a database, so to speak. The properties, the routes, the materials, the crews, your expenses, your revenue, your profits, all of this data is well documented and it's well stored, and you've got a lot of history now. And of course, now we're bringing in the weather data. So let's bring the weather data into that information as well. You've got the snow depth, you've got the temperature, the wind, the ice. Now imagine that this data is available for analysis. That is, with all of this data, the business team can more accurately plan how to better manage the next snow event. You can look at what was done right. You can even consider what you might have been able to do better, especially from a revenue generation perspective. And of course, meeting your customers' expectations, critical, of course. But you can start asking questions of this data. How long did this service take? And if we're going to do the exact same service with the same snow depths, we know that now. We can predict the materials, the usage, the cost of them. We can forecast based on weather conditions. We can come up with some really interesting route recommendations based on property location, contractual obligations, whatever criteria might be important to your business. And of course, determine what crews are needed the most and what equipment and what materials. So this really provides some interesting areas of analytics, so to speak.
So, John, you can almost compare this to what we do when we forecast like a big snowstorm. Let's say there's a storm we're expecting on the East Coast, and we'll use analogs. We'll go back and look at previous setups that are maybe, in a similar sense. We have high pressure here, we have low pressure here, and there's actually forecast programs out there that'll show you, let's say, oh, this happened back in 1984 and this happened in 1992, and here's where the results, and kind of same idea, I guess, that we'll use these analogs. Doesn't mean it's going to happen verbatim, but it gives us an idea of like where the snow is going to be the heaviest, or where the snow rain line could be, and things like that. So forecast analogs, I think, are very comparable to what you're talking about.
It is. It is. In fact, it brings up the concept, if you will, of predictive analytics, which is kind of a standard term in the industry. And what really that means is you're looking at patterns in that data to really help look at what we can do and forecast better and smartly. But it applies to like growing your business as well as other business metrics, as to along with what you're saying is in the weather thing. Let me start that again. Yeah, definitely, Brad. What that does is it addresses the concept of predictive analytics, which is what I think you're referring to, and that is the ability to find patterns and help forecast, the next weather conditions. And you can also use it to predict problems or present scenarios before they occur, and it could be used for sales growth or other business metrics. In fact, the next step after predictive analytics is prescriptive analytics. So we were able to predict this and that, right? But we could also use those same insights based on what we discovered in predictive analytics to present an action plan. That is, based on what we know now, let's prescribe this is how you will manage your next 2-day storm. And here's how I'll tell you to put what crews will work best for you, and what equipment and what materials. And so that to me is almost like the holy grail of all of this analytic capabilities. And this is things that we're working on internally here to see if we can start doing, suggesting to our users the best way to set up your routes and your operations. And so that is pretty exciting. And, and in the industry, you're going to hear big data, data mining, artificial intelligence, machine learning, the cloud. These are all current technologies that continue to emerge in our industry and world, and other industries as well. So we'll be looking at how other industries are leveraging these technologies and applying it to the snow and ice management business. So that gets really exciting. Yeah.
I think it's so exciting. Just technology, it's being used to, make an operation safer. It's being used to be more efficient. And just thinking where the industry was and how far it's come, and how we're using GPS, like snowplow contractors, for instance, getting the exact measurements and the bird's eye view of a location, determining the slope of a parking lot, where the drains are located within that parking lot, when they have to remove the snow, where do they have to put it so it properly goes down the drain, making sure away from the sidewalks, the building entrances. The way technology is being leveraged in this industry absolutely blows my mind, and it makes me so excited to see where things are going to go from here.
Yeah. A lot of which we can see and a lot of which we can't see. It's a great point, Chelsea. And the thing is, there is a lot of cool technology on the market, but we're not thinking about the technology for technology's sake, right? We're thinking about what is the business value. So there's a couple ways to look at it. You can start with the business side of it and say, okay, I need to do this. What technology is available? The other side of that is, wow, that's really cool technology like Meta, when you put on the virtual reality and you're doing that, how can that work in the snow and ice industry? So you can look at it from both perspectives. What's my business driver, or what's the technology innovation that could be cool, but maybe has no value? So you think of it from a business perspective, more importantly, right?
And going back to that GPS stuff, and I don't know why. I don't know why I think this is so cool, but I don't know if it was a couple of years ago, but if you go to PA 511, it's one of those sites that has all the cameras across the state for Pennsylvania, and all the little things you can toggle on and off on the left, incidents or speed limits. But there's one you can actually toggle on and off is snow plows, and it'll actually show you the current snow plows that are on the road, what their route is. And it's just kind of cool to watch how these little snow plows are on the route in a snowstorm or a situation where they got to do some work out there. And it's just kind of neat to me. I don't know why I find that so cool, but I guess that's something that right there. That's easy to see how GPS is just going forward with everything.
Yeah, that's pretty smart. In fact, Cleveland just implemented a system like that as well.
Did they? Yeah. So it's just I don't know. I'm sure other states do too. It's just something that I noticed, and you can go to pa511.gov, I think it is, and just click on and play with it. It's pretty cool.
Well, we have covered a lot of ground today, everything from talking about artificial intelligence to, other ways to save time and money by utilizing safely and efficiently your mobile phone, how to maximize the use of that for, say, crews that are out in the field, even for property managers. We've covered 5G, how that has completely changed the industry, both meteorologically, but also snow and ice for sure, sensor technology. We've talked about GPS, and that has been a huge game changer as well. But I'm excited to see where technology goes from here. And I'm also excited that we talked about technology and how to leverage it in this industry. And it has been so wonderful having you on, John Paganini from CrewTracker Software. And it's uh, also been an honor to work with you as a partner, and WeatherWorks has really enjoyed our partnership over the years. And we're excited to see where technology can even take our partnership from here.
Thank you, Chelsea. The feelings are quite mutual. Yeah, it's been a great partnership. Started before me, actually. So we can, it's now up to us to take it to the next level, whatever that is. And as the relationship grows, as well as the technology and the services and offerings that we provide to our both mutual and future customers, I think the road looks really exciting. So as the electronic cars, become more prevalent, and our technologies get better, and the integration gets more interesting, we'll be collaborating together to provide some really interesting, creative solutions to the industry. So that will definitely continue, and I think we're only limited by our imagination. But on that thought, the people who have the most imagination and creativity are our users, our customers. Really understand what they're looking for. So it's really up to us to deliver that to and for them. So thank you for having me on the show. It's truly an honor. A lot of fun to talk about this stuff, and there's a lot more we can talk about. Maybe we do it again and talk about some other emerging technologies and the impact it has on the industry.
Yeah, for sure, John. Thank you again very much for being on the podcast with us. And maybe when we get to like 6 or 7 or 10G, we'll have you back on.
Hilarious.
Who knows what's in store?
Now, when we're all wearing virtual reality goggles,
That's true.
Yes, it'll be like we're all sitting together in the same room, and then our listeners will be there in a virtual audience.
Yeah, that'll be fun. And they'll virtually snowplow.
Yeah.
I could see that. You can imagine sitting at the, at your office, virtually driving the snowplow truck.
Wow. Mind blown.
All right. All right. Well, again, thank you so very much for joining us in this week's podcast here in the Weather Lounge. And you can catch us every 2 weeks. We'll have a brand new topic. And again, our topics range from basically anything you can think of with the weather to baseball to, any kind of outside the weather topic. So again, what did I say? Baseball. Start over. 3, 2, 1. All right, everyone. Thank you so very much then for joining us here in the Weather Lounge. We have a brand new episode and topic every 2 weeks. And of course, you can check us out on your favorite podcast platform. And we are on all social media platforms. Please check us out on Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, and Instagram. And of course, you can always go to our website at weatherworksinc.com. And we'll see you back here in a couple of weeks.